Dylan with the Smart Economy Podcast. We are on the last interview of the first day of Permissionless III with Keegan Vogels. Yes, Keegan Vogels of Neptune Finance. We were going to speak with the CEO, but now we're speaking with the co-founder of Neptune, so thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so just to kind of like start up the conversation, to paint the context, how did you end up in the crypto and blockchain space? What was kind of like your aha moment that said, I need to be building here?
I've got a pretty big history in crypto, maybe long history, I would say. So I kind of touched the space in 2014, and then in 2017, I have a electronics engineering background. So I really got into mining and trying to make those as power efficient as possible. I built my own solar-powered mining rig, and I was mining some like proof of capacity coins and proof of work and all this stuff. But it was in 2021 when I kind of discovered DeFi more, where I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic. There's no barrier of entry. The hurdle's really low to participate. I always wanted to get more involved in finance. So like DeFi kind of opened that up to me. And then I discovered the Terra ecosystem when that was kind of thriving at the time, and I was pretty early there. And I was interested in this idea of like the stablecoin mechanisms they had. And that's kind of where I saw an opportunity to build, and I got some people together, and that's kind of where we came up with the idea for Neptune. It was, let's build a system that makes money markets more efficient. Neptune evolved since then, but that's where it all started.
Yeah, I was an actual avid user of Terra myself.
Yeah.
I was a super big fan of Anchor until I wasn't. So did you start by building in Terra, or were you just kind of like lured into the Cosmos ecosystem in general because Terra kind of opened those doors for you?
Terra definitely opened those doors for us, but I was pretty interested in the tech very early on with like the IBC standard.
Yes.
I love the idea of like a two-way handshake compared to using a custodial bridge, because bridges have had lots of vulnerabilities. So IBC was very interesting, but it was definitely Terra and especially Anchor that got me interested in building, because when Anchor came along, we saw this 20% yield and I was like, this isn't going to last forever, but if we can build something that brings more demand to the borrowing side, maybe we can help support this mechanism that they got going on. So that was the goal of Neptune at the time. Let's kind of automate the borrowing side. Let's try and make this money market more efficient.
Yeah. Was there any like particular draw away from the EVM ecosystem back in 21 when you were starting to build Neptune? I mean, Terra, Cosmos, it was kind of like a hot ecosystem back then. IBC was just around the corner and we were all really excited for it. Did you also explore potentially building on EVM, or was it kind of like love at first sight?
I did explore EVM. My personal journey first started in EVM, and playing in DeFi there with a small amount of money was really good. But when DeFi really took off, like the cost to participate was a big barrier of entry. So when I wanted to build, I considered that a lot. I was like, I'm kind of catering to the large user, and I want to make this accessible for the small guy as well. So I was definitely interested in doing it in a more accessible ecosystem, and kind of proof of stake really spoke to me as well. I saw where proof of work was going and kind of the energy cost around it all. So looking at the Cosmos structure for proof of stake, that got me really interested.
Yeah, and so I still love the Cosmos ecosystem. I think the decentralization is kind of weighing down on a lot of the participants. As we've seen with like DAOs, governance is just very hard to keep people interested and continue to contribute. And maybe we're starting to see that with like the app chains a little bit. But what keeps you still bullish on the Cosmos ecosystem? What keeps you still focused there and really wanting to drive value?
There's still, again, the big sentiment around IBC, kind of this way to connect blockchains. And the development tools that kind of Cosmos has opened up, like it's been really accessible to build your own blockchain on top of the Cosmos SDK. And this has led to a lot of innovations where you can plug and play different modules for your Cosmos-based chain and then create your own modules easily. And that's something we've done as a dev company, is kind of play around with building our own modules for the Cosmos SDK. So this interoperability and connectivity between the chains is very attractive. There's definitely been some downfalls with it, where some teams, like a lot of projects, built their own app chains where it wasn't really necessary.
Right.
Like one great example was DYDX definitely found their market fit before they decided to build a Cosmos chain, because that was a good move for them. Like they found a need to have their own chain, and that's why we also like building on Injective as well. They found a need to have a very fast execution chain and some sovereignty for that, so they could customize it, and that's where they had a good market fit in building that into their own Cosmos SDK kit as well.
Sure. So you're actually the first project that I've gotten to speak with building on Injective.
Right.
I also feel like this year, the kind of Injective narrative has become a lot larger. I've seen crypto Twitter talking about it a lot more, and it's kind of hit that mainstream adoption for Web3 natives.
Yep.
So what about Injective like initially attracted you? You were talking about the speed and the throughput, but like, what do you think is going to attract other people to start building in that ecosystem?
When we first connected with Injective, we, as a protocol, we connected with a lot of other blockchain teams. We looked at all across the Cosmos, but the Polkadot and EVM ecosystems as well, Solana. And when we connected with the Injective team, we really respected how they took the development of their chain very seriously. They acted more of kind of in a business manner, but still with the respect to decentralization and Web3. And that really attracted us because as a lending platform, we take a lot of what we do very seriously because there's a lot of risks involved in operating and using a lending platform. So there was a strong alignment between us. And Injective is doing really well to encourage people teams to build on their chain. And they're being a bit more selective as well. They're a semi-permission chain, meaning you have to go through governance to deploy smart contracts, but they don't want to see a bunch of clones pop up in their DeFi ecosystem. They want to support unique propositions that have a fit there, and they don't want to overcrowd, have 20 different dexes. So the foundation is definitely doing well to help a few to see that there's definitely fit and opportunity for you here. So we want to support you and get you connected, and we have a bunch of good support from them, connection to all the other protocols, and help in connecting to investment, connecting to development, connecting to other teams. It's been a great experience.
And so, are you able to see like users that are within the Injective ecosystem, kind of like start using Neptune a lot quicker off the bat because they already trust the approvers or the semi-approvers of the Injective leadership? Like, did you see a sharp rise in users immediately than otherwise you would have thought?
It's been a pretty consistent growth since our launch on mainnet, and there was a sharp increase, no doubt. We've had a lot of deposit caps on Neptune recently, just because we're growing it slowly to make sure it all works and all safe. And we're gearing up for a token launch and some upgrades to V2, so we're going to see a lot of expansion. And there's a lot of big users waiting to come in and flood that because we've had that, like you said, that connection to the core team. That trust was already there, but now we've built our own trust as well because we've operated in a respectful, safe manner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has like V1 been live on mainnet? I'm an American, so I haven't been able to use Neptune, unfortunately, which I would love to get to in a minute to hear the woes of my country. But was there like a V1 that was live in Cosmos ecosystem before you launched on Injective?
So yes, we were always building to the Cosmos stack rather than to Injective specifically. So as we were building out the Neptune money market, we were just building it on the Cosmosm smart contract platform. Yeah. And then when we got connected to Injective, that's when we only had to tweak a couple small things to make it fit to their blockchain. So we didn't have any one location that we were targeting until we came to that point.
Got it. So like zooming back, we got to see the lessons learned from something like Anchor, and that impacted the way that you started building out Neptune. Over the years, have there been any other like major opportunities for lessons learned that you've seen from other projects that you learned to avoid? Or what are maybe some of the best practices that you've adopted from other projects and ecosystems that you've implemented into Neptune?
I mean, there's a lot of good examples of what not to do and what to do, and we're really happy that our team kind of survived this market cycle as well, to survive the Terra collapse and make it through on the other end and come out still as the same team, if not expanded at this point. So like looking at Anchor and what they did irresponsibly, holding interest rates too high, looking at a lot of examples of like inflating your token too much and relying too heavily on incentives. The mechanisms underlying Neptune, it's a unique proposition for us because they drive interest rates organically. They very much react to supply and demand in the market, and the rates on Neptune have definitely been outcompeting the rates in the comparable money markets. Our stablecoin yields have right now got a long-term moving average of a 14% for lending. So it's pretty high yields you can get without any incentive tokens involved at all at this point.
And what are the underlying stablecoins that you're using for lending? Just like peg, like wrapped Tether, wrapped Circle?
Yeah, right now we're using a tether variant, which is bridged using the injective native bridge. And we're also using native USDC, so that's coming through the Noble ABC connection, and that's a trusted partner of Circle as well. So we have those two variants, and we're increasing the caps so more users can come in for that, but there's a lot of demand for borrowing on those stablecoins.
Are there other sort of like yield and interest opportunities that you guys are looking into? How do you keep these rates so attractive so that you can have long-term lenders and borrowers?
So the core mechanism that drives Neptune is like our rate controller that balances as we're targeting utilization rate, it kind of shifts the interest rate curve around that. So that's definitely, without our next advancements, that's been doing a lot. But like in our roadmap that we launched a couple of weeks ago, we've got a lot that we're working towards, kind of the end goal being like more institutional adoption. But one of the examples would be our yield aggregator, where when you deposit into Neptune, you get a receipt token. So that's a yield-bearing receipt token. And we're taking that so that you can put it into one of our yield vaults, and you can use the interest on that deposit to invest into another strategy. So it's a lossless investment kind of technique that this vault contributes. And then for the institutional side, we're working on something called a earn proxy, which is kind of a plug-and-play kit for, say, like wallets or centralized exchanges or other DeFi platforms to kind of offer a earn function to the tokens listed in Neptune, so their users can get a yield on those tokens, and then Neptune is kind of the yield engine in the background, and the institutions are the middleman, and they can take a fee for offering that.
Yeah, very cool. So did, excuse me, Neptune is like an OG now. You survived nasty collapse. You've been able to build through the bear, and now here you are launching V2, collaborating with Injective. How have the conversations with institutional partners changed over the years? And when would you say they really started to pick up and you started having more and more real conversations with institutional partners?
It's been a very interesting ride because we were there when Terra was booming and institutions were mostly VCs looking for investment. And then through the bear markets, we really kind of had to solidify on our product offerings to kind of align with the VCs and what they were looking for in these types of markets as well. And now as we're growing again, we're looking for these connections of like, what do the big depositors want and how can they be confident with putting $100 million into a protocol and making sure that it generates yield for them and other people borrowing those assets and everything. So that's kind of how it shifted from more the VC arm to now the institutional depositor arm. And now we're looking for all the connections where people can use Neptune in the back end for their other platforms, and we're looking for the wallets that target the institutional players and the family offices and everything like that.
Gotcha. Without like naming any names, like are the banks here talking to you about earning yield, or is it still like traditional financial institutions?
Yeah, we've talked to a variety of them, just some hedge funds or capital managers, family offices who are just like, we're looking for yield on stable investments, stablecoin strategies, and just telling them that, Neptune's driving like a 14% yield on average just from lending deposits. That really raises eyebrows for them.
Yeah, I'm sure. So kind of like zooming out, this is a US-based conference. I'm not sure if you've been to other conferences throughout the world. We have like a lot of regulatory ambiguity here. It's hampered your ability to onboard US users.
Yep.
So like, what is the future for the US from your perspective? Are you guys willing to just like build around us? Or do you think there's a future where eventually we can finally like not be geo-fenced along with other sanctioned countries, like, I don't need to name any names, but countries that are sanctioned? Like, what's our future for us, for your platform?
I was just having this conversation with another team a couple hours earlier. A lot of other protocols are in a similar position where our team's pretty decentralized, yet it's the gray area that we've been operating in for so many years at this point, and it's frustrating to not have regulatory clarity, some guidelines to work in, where we want to be involved with the US. We want to offer our products to that market, so it's kind of frustrating that we kind of have to be geo-blocking just for our own safety and the safety of the team. We don't operate in a manner that is offering any products which can be seen as sketchy at all. It's just a standard lending protocol, but we still have to play it safe. But we're talking with another team who is developing a deep-in solution for geolocating in a more decentralized manner. And we're talking about how perhaps one of the solutions is a lot of way that users connect to the platforms is through a front end. And it's the front end that maybe has to meet the regulatory requirements rather than the decentralized back-end experience. So, Neptune or Uniswap, and anyone could have multiple front ends, and we could build one that caters specifically to the US market and fits their framework and their guidelines. But the hard part is there is no framework or guidelines to do that in right now.
Yeah.
So that is one of the solutions we're working towards.
This is actually like an interesting theme that I've just seen in the Cosmos ecosystem in general. A lot of projects tend to lean towards the basis of just geo-blocking US residents out of access. Is there any particular reason why we see this as like the default in Cosmos? Whereas in Ethereum, we see a lot of projects just not caring if you're US based or not.
I think it's just, it's a standard that a lot of people follow. You look at what your neighbors are doing and then you're like, I'm not sure why they're doing it, but maybe we should play it safe and do it as well. Of course, we have a lot of legal advisory that tells us a lot of things as well. And again, a lot of the conversation is, we don't know the right thing to do, so maybe you should do this just to play it safe. But I do respect the teams that are like, no, we're just going to offer it to everyone, because that is, to me, the right decentralized path to take. That's what I want in a world of finance and open finance and everything.
Yeah, but you also have to stay out of jail so you can keep building at the same time.
Exactly. But we're working towards building up like our foundation and our decentralization as well, so that it's not, the project should not be tied to any one individual, so that it can be offered to all individuals.
Yeah, and so kind of last question, have there been any major key takeaways or moments where you had an aha here at Permissionless that's happened throughout the day?
No, I mean, it's still early for us, no doubt. We just flew in yesterday. The conversation I was having earlier about kind of the deep in stuff is getting really hot right now, and I kind of want to see where that leads. But I'm really curious to get connected to more teams. I don't really come here with a lot of goals. It's like, I'll just shake everyone's hand. I want to hear what you're talking about. A lot of crossovers between AI and crypto right now.
Totally.
That interests me. So still excited.
Awesome. Who do you want to talk to, and what's the best way that they can reach out to you?
So we're gearing up for our token launch that's coming in this quarter. A lot of improvements coming to our protocol as well. And there's a lot of opportunities to still get involved with our protocol before that. But we're looking for builders as well. We're building out our technical documents and our API integrations so that you can use Neptune as the yield engine and build on top of that. We've got a bunch of ideas how you can do it. So if you've got drive to build but don't have an idea, come to us. We'll give it to you. You can start building. We'll help you.
Awesome. Well, it's the very end of the first day of the conference, so I appreciate your time, Keegan.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
Cheers.
Thank you.
And for anyone who wants to see any of the other interviews we've had today, head over to Neo News Today's YouTube page to view a list of the recordings.